On today's Locked On NBA Game Night podcast, who can actually win a championship? We're going to draft the title contenders, plus get you set for the upcoming schedule release.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Rutland Styles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's David Ramil, host of Locked On Heat. And we're bringing you NBA Game Night, even on a night where there's no games. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who is hitting a home run this MLB season. David, we're still in off-season mode, but we know that the schedule is around the corner. Mark Stein reporting it'll come out next week, and that'll kind of rejuvenate everyone as eventually we'll have actual games to cover on game night. So we're going to go through what the most interesting matchups will be this season, with opening night and Christmas Day, of course, being tentpole days around the NBA, as well as drafting NBA title contenders. David, what do you think for this season? If you had to give a rough estimate of just true blue, we got to draft them. How many are there out there of title contenders? I think that there's at least two in the West. And then the East, as we've talked about throughout this last couple of weeks, pretty open.
Yeah, I would say that with the East, I believe you were right about the West too, definitely there. And then in the East, a little harder to determine. I would say you could have three teams that have a pretty good chance of getting out of the Eastern Conference. And I don't know if that's enough to guarantee them to become true title contenders, but, I wasn't necessarily bullish on the Knicks' ability to knock off the San Antonio Spurs. And so I was greatly surprised by what I saw. And here we are. So the Knicks are champions, and you never know. As long as you get out of the conference, you have an opportunity, and that's all it really takes. So I would say three teams that I would put probably as pretty strong contenders to get out of the East, with a good chance to maybe even pull off an upset in the NBA Finals.
So we have the stage set. Kind of the moving and shaking is pretty well done in the NBA. Let's draft. There's 20 playoff spots available. Let's go through 10 picks of the NBA draft, title contention draft here. I'll give you the first pick, David. Who's the number one pick on the board of who you believe will win a championship this season, has the ability to do so?
You know what? This is a tough pick. A lot of good options, kind of like this past draft, to be honest with you. There's a lot of great players. Are we going for upside? Are we going for proven commodity? Look, as good as the Knicks were in the finals, that should be the obvious choice. But you know what? I don't know. Give me the San Antonio Spurs. That is my pick for the number one contending team in the NBA. I think they'll come back with renewed purpose. There are questions there, but I think they're going to come back with renewed purpose and a new sense of not desperation necessarily, but with a purity of purpose and single-minded focus to be able to capitalize on their success last year. They caught a lot of people by surprise, I think, but they were so dominant for most of the regular season. They had a great postseason as well, and then they just ran up against the superior Knicks team. And I would just say that the Spurs are my number one pick, with the ability to kind of build up what we saw last year to get to the NBA Finals.
I'm with you. They would have been my number one choice as well, because I do think that this is a team that is uniquely equipped to just need the one experience. They went through an entire playoff journey, made it all the way through, and the late game execution is what kind of faltered their season. And with that in mind, they're going to be able to build on that and learn from that. I don't think that this is going to be a group where it takes 2, 3, 4 years of losing to figure it out on the biggest stage. Oklahoma City got found out, of course, in the second round against Dallas. They got bounced, but then they come back, make some additions, and then they are winning a championship the next year. I think that San Antonio can obviously do that same thing of just the internal growth of these guys getting to the moment, matching the moment, and executing in that moment to win a title. And I think that it's also a great decision because my number one pick, unbiasedly so, is Oklahoma City for this reason. Ooh. Not only are the Thunder capable of winning a championship, I mean, they have the top end talent and they've done it before. But we talked about how wide open the East is. If you pick New York, it's not going to be easy to get past Detroit and get past Atlanta, Philadelphia, Toronto. Like, these are teams that can really push you. And the Western Conference, it does feel like there's a clear separation of the Thunder, the Spurs. They've got to get past each other, and that's kind of the only teams who can really oust them, barring injuries. If they're healthy, they're going to see each other in the West Finals, and then it's going to come down to who wins that matchup, and you're in the NBA Finals. I don't think that Denver can shock the world against San Antonio or OKC. I don't think that the new look Lakers can do that either. Whereas in the Eastern Conference, there's at least a possibility for the Knicks or for Philadelphia or for these teams that you might expect to be at the top of that conference to get surprised. And I think that they'll have a more grueling stretch. You saw Oklahoma City sweep their way to the West Finals last year. San Antonio only lost a couple of games on the way to the Western Conference Finals. And so I think that you're going to see this matchup be part of why they're drafted 1 and 2, being that the Western Conference all of a sudden is no longer the superior conference to me, David.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I kind of waffled behind the proven commodity of Oklahoma City, or the potential to build on last year in the San Antonio Spurs. I think, they have. I think they're going to use the loss in the finals as fuel as far as the Spurs are concerned. But you know what? The Thunder, despite changes to their roster this season, they're still just as good. They still have the MVP. They're going to be a great team, and I think they're going to take that same fuel from last year of having lost in the Western Conference Finals and use that as incredible motivation for the upcoming season. So you could go 1-2 here, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise me, either the Thunder or the Spurs, either team capable, I think, and outdistancing themselves as clear contenders there. So, but you put me in a real tough bind here, because I already see the comments and the hatred from the Miami guy, whatever. I could totally see it coming already, but I'm not going with the New York Knicks. That should be the obvious choice here. I'm going Philadelphia 76ers, and it pains me to say that, but I think they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think LeBron James is LeBron James still. He's got renewed purpose. And that's kind of the thing with me, is that his choice to go to Philadelphia signals to me the desire to win a championship and to win it in a fourth city that he's played for. And that team is stacked in terms of talent. They've got depth. They've got coaching, a proven championship coach in Nick Nurse. That's a really good team. And I know everybody's kind of thinking he's going to fall apart because of Joel Embiid, or, there's only one ball. We've never really seen that concern. Like, there are plenty of teams that have been stacked with talent, and nobody ever questions, it's only got one ball. You know what? They'll figure it out. There's playmaking ability across the board there. They know how to win at a highest level. I think it's going to be just fine. So I'm going with the Philadelphia 76ers as my second pick.
I love that pick. I was hoping to get them as my number 2, thinking that you would go with the easy choice in New York. But Philadelphia, we've talked about it for a year now, David, together. I'm always way too high on Philadelphia. This year, I'll finally, I think, get paid off for being in on these Sixers. But Maxey, LeBron, Jalen Brown, and then, of course, Embiid, surely he's going to be healthy at some point. Maybe this will be the year in which he can stay healthy the entire way. But that's a really good pick. I will go with New York. I'll take the defending champs off of the board. This is just clear cut, right? They just did it, so there's no question that they can win a championship. And then you have a guy like Jalen Brunson, who rises to the occasion at every turn, and you trust down the stretch of games. This is a team and a coach that you trust. Really impressed with Coach Brown and what he did in those NBA Finals opportunities for him this past season. I'll go with New York, and I'll take them off of the board. So far, we have 2 in the West, one for each of us, and 2 in the East, one for each of us. Who's going to break the tie? Which conference do you go to for pick 3?
Well, right now, I'd say, because of the point you just made, the West doesn't really have a strong follow, another tier there below. I'm going to go with the Detroit Pistons. I think, again, a team that can use last year as motivation. They made some changes to the roster. I think they'll get the situation with Jalen Duren resolved. And that being the case, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be just as good a contending team this year as well. I know they have changes to make, and maybe they've got more of an uphill climb, but that was a really good team that impressed all last season, and just wound up falling short in the postseason. I think they get past that hump. So that's my third overall pick, is the Detroit Pistons.
I love the addition of Isaiah Joe for Detroit, and I think that they've added some shooting to that roster that can help them. A year older for a very young team is going to be invaluable to have for them. And now I'm tied between 2 teams that I don't believe in, one in each conference, but they're just at least going to be good. Like, they're at least going to be in the conversation. and it's between Cleveland and Denver for me at this
Ooh.
point. And I guess that I'll take Cleveland because
Oh.
in the Eastern Conference, what if Embiid does get hurt? What if the Knicks, the quick turnaround, the championship hangover, what if they take a step backward? I hate having to rely on this Cleveland team that has shown you time and time again they cannot get it done in the postseason. But that's just how much I trust San Antonio and Oklahoma City to take care of business in the West. That I'll go ahead and take Cleveland.
Yeah, I can't fault you in that logic. I mean, the James Harden experience, maybe it'll get better the second time around for Cleveland. It's hard to really say. I don't know. It's a tough pick, but I can't fault it either. They've been so successful in the regular season. They did go to the Eastern Conference Finals. You know what? Maybe it works this next season as well. And you're right. If the Knicks don't figure it out again, if they don't have the same magic that they had last year, and the Sixers fall apart, the Cavs team is a really good selection. So it is a really good choice there. But I guess that kind of lands me with the next pick in the Western Conference. I guess I've got to go with the Denver Nuggets because I think you still have a proven team there. They've got questions, clearly. They've got holes. I don't feel great about the choice, but I can't discount the greatness of Nikola Jokic too. And so that being the case, that makes them clearly a favorite over almost any other team in the West and over some of the other possible contenders, because I think the running the gamut in the Eastern Conference, as you just pointed out, it's going to be so much more challenging where any of these teams can get past. You've got Atlanta, you've got Toronto, should they get Kawhi Leonard. You've got, Philadelphia, obviously, Detroit, Boston, Miami, so many teams there that have the opportunity to be really good this season. And I don't know if you would put them in the same level as contenders, but you know what? Would it be surprising if one of these teams that we're not taking into consideration, let's say in Indiana, winds up beating one of these top teams in the Eastern Conference, or at least what we perceive to be the top teams in the Eastern Conference? I wouldn't be surprised. And so that being the case, I have to give Denver the opportunity there because I think things might be a little bit easier out west than they would in the East.
Denver, yeah, for sure. Good pick. They have the star power, Jokic and Murray. They have a core that's done it. And this feels like the last hurrah for Denver, and that can really galvanize a group of individuals together. And also, we mentioned the pathway. But by the same token, while I do expect it to be OKC San Antonio, I do think that the clear-cut number 3 in the West is Denver. And at that point, you're only a bump and a bruise from other teams away from being elevated up from that number 3 spot in this tough Western Conference at the top. So we'll talk about our next picks for the title draft contenders coming up. Plus, we'll get you set for the schedule release. What matchup should you be eyeing and making sure you're seeing this season? But first, I want to tell you right now, but your friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick on who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get a chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Folks, if you're like me following the Royals, who are not a good baseball team, it makes it more interesting. Jack Caglione, the hot shot prospect for Kansas City, he might go yard, and if he does, well, then he's my daily dinger pick every day. So you can get on the action and play your game today by joining FanDuel.com right now. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, the official partner of MLB. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night Podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Relin Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's David Ramil, host of Locked On Heat. David, your team right now sits with San Antonio, Philadelphia, Detroit, Denver. I have Oklahoma City, the Knicks, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm going to go with this next pick, the Indiana Pacers. David, they're going to be healthy this year. They went on that magical run to the finals that ended with Therese Halliburton's injury, of course. But after a year away, Halliburton's there. The Zoo addition, I think, will be, of course, felt this season that they made at the trade deadline. And then they're going to be flanked with talent across the board at Indiana. Let's go with the Indiana Pacers. Let's get wacky here on this pick because we're at the point where it is, to your point about comparing it to a real NBA draft, it is like, you know what? Let's just get some upside feel in there because I don't believe in some of the teams that are conventionally placed at the top of these lists.
I love this pick. I think they're such an underappreciated team. No one's really talking about them. Kind of a quiet off season for them because, well, they made their big move earlier in the year and getting Zubac, and they're going to be welcoming back an all NBA player in Tyrese Halliburton, one of the most impactful players in the game. We've seen what he's capable of. If he's anywhere close to the level that he was before, that's such an improved team from what we saw last year. They've got Pascal Siakam. They've got a really well-rounded team. They've got one of the best coaches in NBA history, Rick Carlisle. No one's talking about Indiana. I'm glad you made this pick. They would have been my next selection because I think that's a team that really has some potential of just upsetting a lot of things just because nobody really takes them seriously right now. But that's a really good team. I think they're capable of winning 50-plus games next season.
Yeah, certainly capable of having a dramatic bounce back season. And I think that it should be baked in that expected of them to bounce back because it is easy to forget, kind of out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. But you mentioned that the reason for a silent off season was because they did the dirty work in the middle of that losing season a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, this is where it gets a little bit tougher. You made an Eastern Conference pick. You know what? Let's go crazy. Let's go for the Houston Rockets. Why the heck not? You know, they won 52 games last year. A team that fell apart maybe and just really didn't seem to have anything consistent. And I know there's kind of some tension there. But you know what? They've still got Kevin Durant. I think that's still going to be a really good team. I think it's another year of kind of figuring out this process. And with the Western Conference being what it is, can they get past San Antonio or Oklahoma City? Probably not. But if one of those teams suffers a major injury, that kind of opportunity might be enough for a veteran team like Houston. It's been pretty close. It's been really good to get that opportunity. So you know what? I'm not sure I feel confident about the pick, but I'm going Houston with my 5th pick.
You know, that's the right spot for them. And I think that this is the spot of the draft that I call the Alexei Pokusevski range. I hate to compare these teams to Poku, but Poku was a pick that's like, yeah, you know what? Forget it. You're going into a rebuilding season. You're going into a year where you want to lose. Poku's going to be fun. He's going to be interesting to watch. But in all likelihood, 99% sure he's going to be a terrible player. He was, but it didn't matter because you were just taking the swing. I'm taking the swing on Minnesota. I think that Chris Finch will find a way to maximize this defense. And then what if the LaMelo and Ant pairing is just good? We've seen Ant push teams further than they should go. Back-to-back West Finals appearances for the Minnesota Timberwolves until last year, in which they gave San Antonio a better fight than maybe you were expecting, considering the injuries that they were dealing with. What if LaMelo and Ant are good? And this is the what if range because I don't know that's going to be true. I think that there is just as much a chance that that's not a good pairing as it is a good one. And I think that there's a real possibility that Minnesota really misses Naz Reid and is hurt by that loss in a big way. But I'm going to roll the dice on these 2-star guards.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad pick at all, to be honest with you. It's there's possibility there. Great coaching, as you said. I think that's going to get overlooked. And the reality is you still have a staunch defender in Rudy. They made some changes, but it could really break well for Minnesota. It could have some disastrous potential as well. But this is that place in the draft where you're saying, you know what? Have they done enough in the past to kind of earn the chance? They certainly have. And while the team is revised and kind of revamped roster, you still like the possibility of them making some noise in the West, even though they don't seem like a strong contender on paper, but they're dangerous and just a little bit more of the unknowable about that roster. So I'm going with a similar team here. I think the Toronto Raptors, again, with the caveat that they land Kawhi Leonard. That's my pick. My 6th pick in the draft here. I think that's a team that showed real promise last year. They've got real star potential, obviously, with Scotty Barnes there. We saw him realize that last year. He is a true star now. Kawhi Leonard is another one of those players. Yeah, his health is always a concern. So what? We're not counting on this for this exercise. I think there's the potential there, obviously. Still one of the best players. Again, Kawhi is one of those guys that have been continuously overlooked because it's so easy to just fit into the whole, oh, well, he's never available. He's so problematic. You never know what you're dealing with. all those things might be true, but when he's on the court, he's a damn good player. And that's the bottom line there. And he's going to go to a team that was already really good in Toronto and can certainly even get better once he joins that roster. So that's my pick, the 6th pick in my draft.
I was between Toronto and Miami for this next pick. You made it easy to go with Miami, but Toronto, well, with CMB and Kawhi and Scotty Barnes, I think that's the right pick here. I'm just going to go with Miami because it's a star-driven league, and Giannis, top 5 player in the world. Bam, really good player in that star category. Heat culture, let's just buy into the Heat culture. Why not? The flexibility that they have going into the season with a couple of roster spots and perhaps some more work to do on the trade market. And then they have a great coach, and they've gone on miracle runs before. Let's do it. Miami Heat with Giannis is my 6th pick because there's not other options on the board that really surpass the Heat for me.
Yeah, listen, I'm glad you made the pick. I tried to avoid it consciously. I didn't want to seem like the obvious homer here, but I know what they've got. I know the challenges that they're going to face, but you know what? This is a team that has overcome those before. I cannot help but feel inspired by everything that Giannis says and how he's approached this offseason. It seems like he's truly dedicated to win a championship here in Miami, and that being the case, you can't discount them completely. Do they seem like the best, roster on paper? Obviously not, but they've got things there that I think will surprise a lot of people. I think Davion Mitchell's going to have a great season. I think Bam's going to be really good in a new, different role for him. I think Andrew Wiggins, again, a guy with championship experience, can really thrive there. And they can make a couple changes here and there, but I don't think that they're lacking as much shooting as people say they do, nor do they lack as much depth as people think that they do. So I think that's a much better team too. But, this is where it really gets tricky, right? I have no idea what to make of the rest of this team as far as championship contenders. Doesn't really seem like there's an obvious choice here. So I'm going to go kind of off the wall here. Let's go with the Atlanta Hawks. You know what? That's a team that has some potential as well. They did really well last year. I think they're going to be even better this year. They don't feel like a legitimate contending team. They don't have either the superstar level player. They don't have a top 5, not even a top 10 player as good as Jalen Johnson has been. But still, that's a really solid team. Well coached. We know what Quinn Snyder is capable of. Let's go with the Hawks. Why not?
The Hawks were on my big board because what if they just do bog you down and win with defense? Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Lou Dort, Dyson Daniels, and then they just get enough offense from CJ and Jalen Johnson, and then Flemings might be a good player as well. I'll have to put on the rookie there. But I like them. They're on my big board. I will go with the Los Angeles Lakers for the Luka factor. Star-driven league. Luka's taken Dallas twice in a row, further than they expected. That West Finals run against the Warriors in 22, and then, of course, going to the finals against the Celtics after they remade their team at the deadline just out of nowhere. So I will go with the Lakers for Luka and just getting a star on the board here at 7.
You know what? This pains me to say. I think the Boston Celtics, they still got Tatum. Who knows? Paul George could thrive in that roster. Even though he's an older player, there's still some juice left. And so he's going to be putting up 3 after 3. We know he can still knock those down. Are they going to be as potent as they were last year? No. But I think they'll be better than a lot of people expect. So I'm going with the Boston Celtics here as my 8th pick.
They've got to be on the board, and I'm going to go with the Orlando Magic. Sean Sweeney is a defensive mastermind, a lot of good defenders to work with. If he flushes out an assistant coaching staff that can help elevate their offense, well, they could be a force at a certain juncture. And again, these teams at these picks are not going to win the title, but they're going to be in that postseason race, and so you might as well see what they got.
I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors. Hey, you got Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler might return to full strength, and you know what? They still got just enough there on that roster. Maybe they can make a change during the course of the season, swing another trade. Why not? I like their chances. Do they feel like they could be a playing team? Absolutely. But could they be a playing team that's extremely dangerous? Yes, as well. So I'm going with the Warriors as my 9th pick.
I like the Warriors pick here. We're getting way off the wall, but I'm going to go with the Washington Wizards.
Do it.
What if Trae Young? What if AD? What if the young core just all hit and mesh? Why not?
Why not? Absolutely. They were one of those picks for me as well. Oh, this is getting lean here. This is where you're really kind of struggling to come up with the 10th best team here. And you know what? I guess the obvious choice would have to be the Phoenix Suns, but they don't feel like they're that at that level, but can they surprise people? Did they make some nice additions this offseason? Look, they just retained Dylan Brooks yesterday as well. Why not? Why can't this be the year of the rising sun here? Let's go with Phoenix.
I like that. Phoenix was going to be my pick if you passed on them. So I will pivot and go to the Portland Trail Blazers. A lot of bad narratives around them. Rightfully so. The owner's getting crushed. They might lose their team when the owner's terrible, but the owner also wins somehow in the NHL. And perhaps he can sprinkle on some winning magic onto this team. Damian Lillard back, Scoot Henderson. What is he going to become? Drew Holiday, Denny Avdia. Of course, in the playoffs last year, they got John Morant this offseason. Why not? Let's see what Shaedon Sharpe and company have in store. Donovan Clingan and them over there in Portland. This is 20 teams. Obviously, Portland has no chance to win the title, but who else would you have put on the board here? Let us know who we got snubbed from our 20-team title draft down below. I'm sure somebody will just be irate that we left somebody off the board, even though we drafted 20 teams.
Pelicans? No Pelicans?
No Cooper Flag. Let's see what the comments say. Coming up, though, let's talk about the marquee games to watch this season. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's David Ramil, host of Locked On Heat. David, we know that the NBA has these tentpole days, and so Mark Stein reports that the schedule will be released next week, and everyone's going to go to what's opening night, what's Christmas Day, with the unofficial opening night for a lot of casual fans. Whenever you look at these two events, it's pivotal that the league crushes who they put on these slates, because it's where you're going to get the most attention until the playoffs roll around. Opening night, the Knicks have to play for ring night, obviously, on that opening Tuesday. Is it as simple as just put New York and Philadelphia on there? It's the best chance to have Philadelphia healthy, plus the LeBron story and Jalen Brown. Is it that simple for who the Knicks should play on opening night? What are your thoughts on these high important dates for the NBA?
I've got 4 games that I picked out here, and I do have the Knicks on opening night, obviously. But I've actually got them going up against your Thunder and not the Spurs, because I think that could have been a matchup, the almost finals, as you were. So I think you want to spread out the star power a little bit more, maybe save that rematch for Christmas Day, at least in my opinion. I think you want to be able to just say, you know what, here are the Knicks, here are the champions from the preceding year in Oklahoma City. And I think that's a great opportunity there. I would have them playing, obviously, in New York. So OKC visiting New York on opening night.
I like that pick. My opening night was going to be New York against Philadelphia, and then San Antonio playing host to OKC. That way on Christmas, you can go San Antonio, New York, and then you can have the Thunder playing whoever. I mean, I think that when you're looking at this as a business standpoint, the Thunder are a valuable team in the sense of, yes, they do have to play on Christmas, but they fit the mold of being able to play in any time slot. And so if you do want to have Steph or you do want to have Jokic, these two teams that aren't massive contenders, the Thunder can comfortably play at 9:30 at night. They can comfortably play at 7:30, at Mountain Time, and play against these two stars and have at least some intrigue there. The Thunder and Warriors linked together because of the history with KD, and then of course the Thunder and Nuggets are a battle that we've used to seeing throughout the division, and of course in the second round of the playoffs a couple years ago. So that's kind of where I have the Thunder landing in all of this. And then I have that your Heat need to be on Christmas Day as well. Is there any team that we have OKC, we have San Antonio, we have New York, and then I just put in your Heat. Who else just has to play on Christmas? You've got to find a way to put them in there if you're Adam Silver.
Golden State, they still have Steph Curry. I don't think you can deny them that opportunity. And I also think you've got to put Minnesota as well. LaMelo too popular, and I think Ant Edwards deserves that as one of the top players in the NBA. He's certainly a guy that not too long ago that was being considered the face of the NBA moving forward. So I think those two teams are there. I've got Miami versus Detroit on Christmas Day.
I'm with you. We are singing out of the same hymnal on this one, because I do believe that Christmas Day has to be an opportunity to showcase your league, showcase your stars, and it has to be interesting because, like we mentioned, you are competing still at this point with football. You're competing still at this point, with the fact that casual fans don't even roll into your sport until around this point of time. And this will be the first time that some casual fans get to see LaMelo and Ant in that pairing and how interesting that will be. So I have those two teams matching up with each other, the Thunder matching up with Denver, your Heat going up with the Sixers, and then kind of going from there with how you stagger in that last game. But Philadelphia and Miami playing, and then New York and San Antonio playing that early game, as is customary for New York as a finals rematch.
Yeah, no, that's a great call right there. I think the Lakers, obviously, I don't know if you mentioned them or not, to be honest with you, but I mean, with Luka Dončić, they're still too popular. That's a team that's got to get some coverage as well. And, he'll probably be, if he's available and healthy, that's still a team definitely worth watching and one that you want to put out in the Christmas Day slot.
Is there, how much intrigue is there for you if you were going to rank the kind of return games, right? So you have LeBron back to LA. You have Jalen Brown taking on Jason Tatum, the Philadelphia, of course, and Boston. And then the return of the rivalry of just OKC San Antonio. If you had to power rank those three matchups, OKC San Antonio, Philadelphia, Boston, and Philadelphia, LA, well, what's the 1, 2, and 3 order?
I like the match. The star power is just too undeniable. I've got Boston versus Philadelphia on opening night because I just think that's something that you have to see. You want to capture the spirit of Philadelphia, but I might schedule it the other way around, going Philadelphia visiting Boston just so they can have a little bit of an edge. Something to prove the Celtics are the Celtics, and Philadelphia obviously going up with the star-laden roster. But I think the matchup of the two Western Conference teams would probably be second there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that when you're looking at this from a business standpoint, the drama of Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum matching up together, you have to watch every single game that they play against each other this season. The Thunder and Spurs is going to be fun, and I think that there's local animosity between those two fan bases. But everyone knows that it's just like, hey, it's basketball. It's going to be fun. It's just going to be great hoops. It's not as dramatic as the Sixers and the Celtics facing off with one another. Let's stay with your Heat to end this one. We've talked a lot about the Thunder in this segment. What is the one matchup that you can't wait to see your Heat play as this new look team?
It's Philadelphia. I think that's the team that everybody's looking to beat. I think the old rivalry with the Knicks is certainly going to be interesting as well. A chance to maybe beat Orlando for the first time in quite some time, even though Orlando has been a team with some obvious warts. They just very much have Miami's number. And I think Miami obviously a better team now with Giannis on there. So they have an opportunity to beat Orlando. And you know what? Give me the matchup against Milwaukee. We're talking about returns. Giannis going back to Milwaukee, the hatred with Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, the number of players that the Heat traded to Milwaukee, to see Giannis in a Heat uniform, that's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see that matchup, even though that's not exactly the most exciting. And maybe Milwaukee might not even be a playoff team this year, at least the way that a lot of people think they won't be. I still think that would be a great matchup between those two teams.
And, David, we've seen the NBA try to make this rivalry week work, and we've also seen them make some silly decisions. Like last year on rivalry week, the Thunder played the Bucks. The only link to those two teams is that they played in the NBA Cup title one time. It's like, that doesn't matter. Yeah, so you can go with the rivalry and kind of get loose with the definition. It has to be rivalry week, Heat, Bucks in Milwaukee, and you see Giannis's return. You see the Hero Bam situation like you were mentioning, and that's just a fun game to throw the Bucks on national TV because they like to sprinkle all these teams on national TV at some point. Easy decision for how the Bucks get on national TV is when they play the Miami Heat. We'll have the schedule next week. Maybe the next time we talk, we'll have the actual schedule. But David, this was a lot of fun. Let us know down below what team got snubbed from the 20-team NBA title draft. Who do you think should have actually been selected at the bottom? Until next time, folks, be good and be good to one another.